Good morning to all. This is HCM Swami, professor and consultant in the area of civil and structural engineering. Today, I am going to discuss with a topic on financial issues in civil engineering. So, why this topic we are considered is most important to explain now. Because finance is the most key factor in all projects. So, we are required to deliver what is the financial credibilities and what are the financial problems we are facing while developing a project. First and foremost thing what I want to say is, what is a project? Project is nothing but a time-oriented work which is having a definite start and end point. So, project will be carried out in different phases. First phase in project is related to defining a project. That means what project we are going to do. After project has been defined, second point is what is the contents of the projects. That means contents means what are the different components of the project. For example, I am saying a building project. So the building project, first we want to define what is the purpose of the building, whether it is a residential building or it is a commercial building or it is a public building. What is the utility of the building, that has to be defined first. After defining the utility of the building, we are required to define what are the important components of the structure. For example, what type of structure we are going to establish, whether it is a steel structure or a RCC structure or a pre-stress and RCC combined structure. All those things we are required to define in the region of structural configuration. Next, after defining the type of structure, we are going to define the different designs. Means what type of design we are going to adopt. That means what is the philosophy we are going to use. Whether we are using a working stress method, or we are going to use a limit state method, or we are going to combine a method which will establish a better quality and quantity in the industrial practice. So stages of projects I already told. The first point is the starting point of the project and the midpoint of the structure and end point of the structure. So this project will be defined in three phases. All the three phases require finance. So when the structure is defined, the engineer will establish the cost what is incurred or incurred in the structural construction. How much amount is required to construct a structure is defined by an engineer. After defining the structural cost, so the owner should require to define the financial issues. That means from where he has to bring the finance, whether from the bank or from the lenders or from the different sources. How to adjust the financial requirements is depending upon owner's interest. So different sectors are available to give the loads to the project based upon the structural feasibility and structural return that is obtained from the structural construction. Then protection to the structure. For example, we are going to have a structure in a good area. So how the structure should be protected? What are the different phases of protection we are going to consider? For example, when the structure is going to be signed or an MOU is going to be signed between the owner and the contractor, we have to include plenty of things in this structural construction. For example, if any mishappenings happen in the structure, whether the contractor is made an insurance to the doing the structural construction, or whether he is having any liabilities occurred during the construction, whether he made any additional provision to take care of all these issues to be considered. So financial problems faced by an owner is very vast, because in the beginning the structure which is to be constructed is defined based upon the estimate which is done by the engineer. So if the estimated cost exceeds the limit, then the structural engineer and the owner will be in a problem. So the first phase in the structural financial ability is to define the structural cost perfectly. After defining the cost of the structure, then the next phase is related to the structural components design. So we are going to have a type of structure based upon the financial feasibility. For example, we are having a very limited amount of finance. When we are having a limited amount of finance, we are going for an ordinary RCC structure. So that means we are not going for any special structures like pre-stressed elements or prefabricated elements or any other components like that. So we are going for an ordinary RCC structure when the financial ability of the owner is normal. When we are having a more finance, that is, when we are having a good financial ability, then we are going for a higher arrangement of structural components. For example, architectural views to be designed based upon the structural component designs and its components, parts of the structures. Then, what are the financial problems faced by an engineer? So, when the financial problems faced by an engineer is nothing but when the engineer is not getting proper amount from the owner, he is unable to procure the material in proper time. When the material is not procured in a proper time, there is a delay in the structural construction. When there is a delay in the structural construction, automatically there is a delay in the construction project completion date. So this will cause additional cost to the structural components, because labor will be affected, material will be affected, and as well as the equipments or the instruments which are used for the structural construction are affected. So try to understand all these important factors to be considered by the structural engineer in beforehand of the construction of the structure. So he has to know if he is having any problem with the structural construction, he has to imagine. So he has to keep an amount aside to take care of all these issues. Then financial problems faced by a contractor. Contractor will be facing a financial problem means he is unable to supply the laborers to the construction project, because sometimes contractors are appointing a labor on different basis and they are the deciders of doing the project properly. So all these things should come into picture. So this the financial problems in the construction of a project is vast. Now that means how much amount of finance we require for a structure will be defined not only on the basis of percentage of what you call percentage of interest, but it is based upon the percentage of utilization. Percentage of interest is different, percentage of utilization is different. Percentage of interest will be depending upon the percentage of utilization, then the structure economy will be satisfied. If the percentage of utilization is bad and the percentage of interest is high, then the structural construction is going into a problematic state. So financial ability of the contractor, the designer, the engineer and the owner should be in hand with hand. So it is very important to define the structural financing in the construction of a structural project. Thank you very much. Okay.